Dice not included. Some assembly required. Lines between perception, desire, and reality may become blurred, redundant, or interchangeable. Characters may hook up with no regard for your emotional investment. Some episodes too conceptual to be funny, some too funny to be immersive, and some so immersive they still aren't funny. Consistency between seasons may vary. Viewers may be measured by a secretive, obsolete system based on selected participants keeping handwritten journals of what they watch. Show may be cancelled and moved to the internet where it turns out tens of millions were watching the whole time. May not matter. Fake commercial may end with disclaimer gag, which may descend into vain Chuck Lorre-esque rant by narcissistic creator. Creator may be unstable. Therapist may have told creator this is not how you make yourself a good person. Life may pass us by while we ignore or mistreat those close to us. Those close to us may be those watching. Those people may want to know I love them, but I may be incapable of saying it. Contains pieces the size of a child's esophagus. Dan Harmon, Season 6, Episode 13. Emotional Consequences of Broadcast Television. This is the story of Community. I'm Alex Wong. June 2nd, 2015. Now that's what I call a finale. Whether it is merely the finale of Community's first season on Yahoo Screen, or the finale to the entire series, the conclusion of Season 6 marks the end of an era, and it bookends that era as only Community can. From the meta-structure of the episode, to the emotional resolutions sprinkled throughout the laughs, to the final scene, with Dan Harmon's poignant speech to the audience he's captivated for nearly 6 years, this is Community at its very best. The tone that permeates the episode is quite familiar by now. For each of the last 4 seasons, due to its constant bubble status, Community hasn't had the luxury of being able to end with a cliffhanger or a complete conclusion, having to settle instead for somewhere in the middle. And even though that's definitely still the case this year, one of the recurring lines throughout the episode is maybe, probably, maybe. With 6 seasons now in the books, this finale, more than any of the others, feels content with wrapping up the remaining journeys and letting these characters go. Critics reviewing the show for what may be the final time sense this as well. Alan Sepinwall, one of Community's earliest champions, writes, quote, "You can look at the finale as a way for Harmon, Chris McKenna, and company to prepare the audience for the idea of the show continuing while most of our favorites have gone on to other things. But 6 seasons, with a movie of some kind possibly to come, is also a remarkable lifespan for a show this weird and specific. There may have been some bumps along the way, including almost all of Season 4, yet it's finishing strongly. If this is all there ever is to Community, I feel satisfied." End quote. There's still much uncertainty as to where Community goes next, whether it be a 7th season, a movie, or none, or all of the above. But critical consensus for the show finishes on an appropriately high note. Whatever arcs the producers and writers wanted to bring to life have been resolved, in spectacular, gratifying fashion. But those who undergo the most of the emotional consequences of broadcast television are those who have lived and died with the show for what has felt like their entire lives. The fans. Half the episodes seem to be talking directly to them, from the maybe gag that started with Elroy but spread to the rest of the group, to Abed's speech about television that gave Troy's story closure without even saying his name, to Annie's rather on-the-nose, "Why doesn't the audience feel sorry for me?" It's only appropriate for a show that owes at least a few seasons of its existence to those fans, and it's helped many of them come to grips with the fact that Community very well may be coming to an end. While, of course, they would love to have a 7th season should the opportunity present itself, they're grateful for the 6 years they've spent at Greendale, and if this is goodbye, they're ready to say it. There was rightful apprehension about Community's 6th season, with the new platform, new studio, and new cast members. But for the most part, the show made the best with what it had and produced a season and a finale that exceeded all expectations. Once again, what happens next is out of the hands of everyone except for a select few, but Community has said its official, unofficial goodbye, and it did so beautifully. January 4th, 2016. For the last 3 years, one event has determined whether Community lives on: the NBC Upfronts. For broadcast television, the Upfronts are vital multi-day extravaganzas where networks advertise their fall shows, renewing and canceling existing programs in the process. But in the streaming world, where advertising's presence is much less imposing, upfront season carries nowhere near the same weight, and negotiations and agreements can occur at virtually any time. It's excruciating for shows whose future is uncertain, and Community is no exception. For the last 6 months, there's been no official word on the future of the show, be it for a 7th season or a final movie. But today, while it's not an official announcement, Community's television fate has been all but sealed. Yahoo Screen is dead. Yahoo Screen was Yahoo's attempt to create one brand for its diverse programming, including NFL games, Saturday Night Live clips, and scripted shows. But after 2 years, it's been far from influential or profitable, and as a result, it's been shut down, leaving Community with no home and acting as about as official of a cancellation as it'll get. Though this is not exactly a shocking turn of events. Community's future has been bleak for quite a while. Let's go back to last summer. While Yahoo seemed optimistic about Season 7 talks immediately following the finale, in early August, it's Joel McHale who delivers the first blow. Speaking with the magazine Metro Weekly, he's asked if Community will be back on Yahoo. Quote, "No. They wanted to, but all of our contracts were up after 6 years. All the actors on the show, almost without exception, their stock has risen significantly, and it's out of the pay rate that is affordable to make the show." End quote. Thanks in no small part to their time on Community, the cast names are considerably bigger than they were in 2009, and it's already paying dividends. Gillian Jacobs, for instance, is signed on to Judd Apatow's Netflix relationship comedy Love. Though Community's budget paradoxically saw an increase when it left network television, it's still a 6-year sitcom, and as McHale observes, it would be financially improbable to continue Community in its current iteration. The internet, hungry for news on its favorite show, runs with the quote, treating it as a cancellation, which leads to a response from Yahoo to the contrary and prompts McHale to tweet, "Easy Sugar Bear, Community is not cancelled." But his reasoning about the cast's value checks out, and he wouldn't have said it if it wasn't at least partially true. Fast forward to September, when the second blow comes down. Community's path to streaming was the exact opposite of straightforward, and the show needed plenty of help along the way. At Yahoo, it came from Chief Marketing Officer Kathy Savitt, who supported Community throughout the recruiting process and played a massive role in bringing Season 6 to Yahoo Screen. But she has now left the company to become president of digital at STX Entertainment. For low-rated or niche shows, having a fervent, high-ranking fan can inject some much-needed life. For an example, look no further than Community's former home, NBC. As bizarre as it may seem now, The Office struggled mightily during its first season. Yet it survived, due in large part to NBC's then-president of entertainment, Kevin Riley. He took the show under his wing, shepherding it to Season 2, and critical acclaim and popular success followed soon after. Savitt acted as a similar figure for Community as it transitioned to the second phase of its life. And with her gone, the chances of Season 7 are lower than ever before. A few weeks after her departure, Dan Harmon acknowledges this as well, calling her, quote, "our beloved benefactor," end quote, and admitting that without her there's, quote, "a little bit of dent in the optimism," end quote. Finally, in mid-October, it becomes clear that Yahoo Screen's days are numbered when the company announces a staggering $42 million loss on original content, with CFO Ken Goldman citing Community as one of the primary suspects. Because while the 6th season was a buzzworthy addition for the video service, it didn't generate the expected level of ad revenue. And since Yahoo Screen follows the more traditional free with ads style of presentation instead of a subscription-based model, this is a crippling blow. So, along with the financial declaration, Goldman gives a somber pronouncement about the future of 3 of Yahoo Screen's original shows, including Community. Quote, "We thought long and hard about it, and what we concluded is for certain of our original video series, we couldn't see a way to make money over time. We're not saying we're not going to do these at all in the future, but what we are saying is, in 3 cases at least, it didn't work the way we had hoped it to work, and we've decided to move on." End quote. Corroborating Joel McHale's statement a few months earlier, it's no longer financially viable to make Community. The discrepancy between what the show demands and what Yahoo is willing to offer is simply too large. So when Yahoo screen folds in the opening days of 2016, it's far from a surprise, and any glimmer of hope of a 7th season goes by the wayside. But there's a silver lining to the end of Community. When one door closes, another one opens. The cast and crew are a gifted bunch, and with one of their formative show business experiences behind them, it's time for them to spread their wings. Some already have their next challenges lined up, while others are still searching for another opportunity. But the common thread between them is that their futures are bright, and over the next few years, they'll reap the rewards of the craft they refined on the set of Community. Just because we've said goodbye to Community doesn't mean we have to say goodbye to those who made it. And fortunately for the fans, the Greendale diaspora now reaches far and wide. Community's final episode aired in June of 2015, but Ken Jeong had already gotten started on his next project. By that point, back on broadcast television, pilot season was well underway, and ABC had picked up 13 possible new series, including Jeong's semi-autobiographical sitcom, Dr. Ken. With Jeong signed on as a creator, executive producer, and lead actor, Dr. Ken brought the former physician's career full circle, allowing him to use his knowledge working in actual hospitals to guide his portrayal of the titular doctor. For the former bit player, the multi-camera comedy represented a new level of creative control. Yet unfortunately, it only lasted 2 seasons, struggling both critically and popularly. But Jeong made sure to have some fun in the process, including giving back to the cast that helped turn him into a household name in the world of television. Over the show's 44-episode run, Joel McHale, Danny Pudi, Jim Rash, Gillian Jacobs, Yvette Nicole Brown, Allison Brie, and Dan Harmon all made cameos. And when the show was canceled, it was all love, with Jeong tweeting, "Thank you to ABC and Sony for making my dreams come true." Since Dr. Ken, he's continued to stay busy with hit after hit, landing a role in the 2018 box office smash Crazy Rich Asians and joining the panel of Fox's celebrity music competition series, The Masked Singer, which was the 3rd most watched show in the 18 to 49 demo its freshman year. Not bad for a nerdy kid from North Carolina. Donald Glover left Community in Season 5 to pursue other opportunities, and he has not disappointed. His FX series, Atlanta, was a success right from the jump, with its first season scoring a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and its second season scoring a 98%. Glover thrived with the producing reins, and though the show's episode output is not as voluminous as network television, I'm sure he'll take it, given the lighter shooting schedule and 22 Emmy nominations. Atlanta would be enough for most people, but don't forget, Glover also had a budding music career when he left, and he's turned Childish Gambino into a superstar. In 2016, his 3rd studio album, Awaken My Love, reached number 5 on the Billboard 200, was certified platinum for selling 1 million units, and earned him 5 Grammy nominations, including Record of the Year and Album of the Year. Then, 2 years later, his single This Is America debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, landing him his first chart-topping song. Glover's been possibly the busiest of the Community cast since the end of the show's run, from his work on TV, to his recording and touring as Childish Gambino, to his appearances in hit movies like Spider-Man: Homecoming, Solo: A Star Wars Story, and the 2019 remake of The Lion King. But he'll always be a human being at heart. As Community and Mad Men wound down, Allison Brie wasted no time getting back in front of the camera. In the ensuing years, she appeared in nearly a dozen films, and she's become a marquee silver screen name. But surprisingly, her most notable role since Community has been back on the humble television set. In 2017, Brie joined the cast of Glow, a Netflix comedy drama about 80s women's professional wrestling. Another period piece, curiously enough. It ran for 3 seasons, drawing significant critical acclaim, including 18 Emmy nominations. But the show's female-focused cast and attitude had a personal impact on Brie as well. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter in 2018, she described how her mindset had shifted, quote, "Prior to Glow, my mentality was work-focused. After, the bar got set so high that I didn't want to do another project that wasn't meaningful," end quote. And between starting Glow and shooting The Post, a Steven Spielberg drama about the publishing of the Pentagon Papers, 2017 was unquestionably a meaningful year for Brie. In the time since, she's continued to pop up on TV and movies, including writing, producing, and starring in Horse Girl, a drama film for Netflix. With a diverse array of work already on her resume, she'll have no trouble finding worthwhile projects in the years to come. After Yvette Nicole Brown said goodbye to Community before its 6th season, she kept her talents on the television side, becoming a series regular on the 2015 CBS reboot of The Odd Couple. She would appear in all 38 episodes of the multi-camera sitcom, in addition to finding on-screen and voice work on various genres and networks. And lately, she too joined much of the rest of the cast in diversifying her creative portfolio. A few years ago, Brown dug up an old screenplay she had written in the late 90s while working as a temp. After reading it over and making some minor tweaks to match the contemporary times, she started to turn it into an actual film. She played a role in all parts of production, and in September 2019, her screenwriting debut aired on BET, the romantic comedy Always a Bridesmaid. Between her writing, producing, acting, and occasional hosting duties, Brown is as busy as she's ever been in her long career. And in a business as tough as Hollywood, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. Danny Pudi refined his distinctive comedic voice as Abed Nadir for 6 seasons, and in the following years, he's been able to use that voice to great effect. In 2017, he landed a co-starring role in a hit film, playing Brainy Smurf in Smurfs: The Lost Village. The same year, he began work on the Disney reboot of the classic animated series DuckTales as Huey. And in 2018, he joined the streaming game, voicing a character on Netflix's Harvey Street Kids. On the live-action side, Pudi's longest series regular role after Community had been on the NBC superhero sitcom Powerless, which only produced 12 episodes, 9 of which made it to air. But his new show actually just recently passed that. Mythic Quest, which airs on Apple TV+, is a workplace comedy in a very non-traditional workplace, a video game development studio. The first 9-episode season earned favorable reviews, and the second season was released after I recorded this. But from the start, it was an extra special project for Pudi because he was already well acquainted with one of the executive producers, longtime Community writer Megan Gans. With the two reunited on a fresh new comedy, Mythic Quest and Danny Pudi still have some of their most exciting days ahead of them. Gillian Jacobs was booking memorable roles before Community even went off the air, including a 5-episode arc in the HBO series Girls. And when Community wrapped, Jacobs immediately dove into her next series, Netflix's Love. From the mind of Judd Apatow, director of such hit films as The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up, the series was advertised as a comedic and down-to-earth look at dating, a perfect setup for the versatile and masterful range Jacobs honed while playing Britta. Right away, she excelled in her new role, and with its unconventional romantic beats and fantastic performances, the show made some critical friends, including Community's old reviewer Alan Sepinwall. When all was said and done, Love would air for 3 seasons and 34 episodes, and added another feather to Jacobs' growing comedic cap. Since she said her last words as Britta, Jacobs has also been busy with film projects. In 2015, she directed The Queen of Code, a documentary short about Grace Hopper, one of the earliest computer scientists. And in 2018, she directed Curated, a short film starring, among others, Danny Pudi. So over a decade after her comedy series debut on Community, her career is doing just splendidly. Looks like Juilliard was wrong. The Soup wrapped around the same time as Community, leaving Joel McHale on the hunt for his next role. And in the middle of 2016, he found it. jumping ship to join a CBS pilot, The Great Indoors. The multicam on America's most watched network represented a significant departure from much of Community's MO. Plus, it got to follow none other than Community's former nemesis, the still gargantuan Big Bang Theory. Unfortunately, The Great Indoors couldn't live up to Community's quality, getting a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. And despite the strong lead-in, it struggled to maintain a consistent audience, pulling just a 0.7 18-49 rating one of the few times it had to air by itself. The show was cancelled after one season, leaving McHale as a free agent once again. A year later, at the start of 2018, he became the latest member of the Community cast to join Netflix, getting his own talk show, The Joel McHale Show with Joel McHale. A spiritual successor to The Soup, it too riffed on pop culture and had a rebellious self-awareness, but it faced many of the same struggles as other streaming talk shows, namely trying to operate as a weekly program on a platform made for binging. After 19 episodes, it got the axe. Despite the setbacks, McHale is still everywhere on television, including making multiple appearances on Ken Jeong's The Masked Singer. He's mastered the role of leading man, and he'll be working for a long time. Interestingly, to those who didn't watch the show, Dan Harmon probably isn't the most well-known member of the Community crew. That honor would have to go to Joe and Anthony Russo, who have gone on to direct such little films as Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, and Avengers: Endgame. But Harmon's found success himself on his animated science fiction sitcom Rick and Morty, which, since 2013, has aired 41 episodes and has 60 more already ordered. With 2 Emmys for Outstanding Animated Program already under his belt, it looks as if Harmon's future is well set up for success. But since Community ended, he's also had to reflect upon his past. On January 2nd, 2018, he tweeted, "This was truly the year of the asshole, myself included. We don't have to make 2018 the year of the mensch, but I hope it can be the year of the not as much of an asshole." He received many replies, one of which was from former Community writer Megan Gans, quote, "Care to be more specific? Redemption follows allocution." End quote. What followed was a very public dialogue between the two about Harmon's harassment of Gans during the show, including a vague apology from Harmon that was partially rejected, with Gans responding, quote, "I appreciate your attempts to make amends and your acknowledgement of fault. That doesn't sound as tidy as 'I forgive you,' but that's not my feeling yet. I'm working towards it all the time, for my benefit more than yours." End quote. Then, a week later, in a rather unexpected twist, Harmon gave a far fuller account of his behavior during, big surprise, an episode of Harmontown, including the following passage, quote, "I drank, I took pills, I crushed on her and resented her for not reciprocating it. And the entire time I was the one writing her paychecks and in control of whether she stayed or went, and whether she felt good about herself or not. Later, he admitted, I moved on, and I never did it before and I'll never do it again. But I certainly wouldn't have been able to do it if I had any respect for women. On a fundamental level, I was thinking about them as different creatures." End quote. The next day, Gans publicly accepted his apology, calling it a masterclass in how to apologize, and tweeting, quote, "This was never about vengeance, it's about vindication." End quote. Now, while the exchange was nowhere near a comprehensive description of Harmon's behavior on set, it acted as another examination of the man who took Community to great heights, yet struggled to keep himself together. As Gans said in an interview with the New York Times shortly after his apology, "I think of Dan as a work in progress. That's how I think of myself, too." The Community cast and crew are everywhere, from blockbuster movies to eccentric television series to the top of hip-hop charts. It's no surprise, given the talent that earned them legions of fans from 2009 to 2015. But, to the dismay of those fans, there's one item that's not yet on their resumes: the item for which they fought for 6 years, the Community movie. Ever since Community was benched in the middle of Season 3, hashtag 6 seasons in a movie has been a rallying cry for the fans, inspiring them to fight for 3 improbable renewals. Even in Community's final moments, the hashtag remained at the forefront, with the words "and a movie" appearing as the gang faded to white during the series finale. At that point, it seemed almost inevitable that there would be a movie eventually, and as Community's hopes of a full 7th season dwindled, the focus turned to the fabled film. While much of the cast had moved on to other projects by then, they remained thrilled at the prospect of returning to Greendale. Said Ken Jeong, "I will do anything community-related." Gillian Jacobs, "I would be thrilled to do the movie." Danny Pudi, "As far as a movie, I'm in." Joel McHale, "I'm sure if somebody funds it, we would love to make a movie." And the kicker from Dan Harmon, "It'll make a great movie. It'll happen." But despite the optimism, there were a few logistical reasons why the movie would be difficult to make. First, as McHale acknowledged, they would have to find a suitor that would fork out the cash. Second, they would have to find time in the cast's bustling schedules. And finally, they would have to have a script. But as Harmon told Larry King in July of 2016, quote, "If I pull out a typewriter right now and write a Community movie just for my own heart and mind, then I have to go through the heartbreak and agony of finding out which of the people are going to show up to make it. On the other hand, if I wait for everybody to line up and say we're all out of work and ready to do a Community movie, well, I guess that's a bad idea too." End quote. The movie did not happen in 2016, and in the ensuing years, while news articles occasionally caused a blip on Community fans' radars, nothing substantial manifested. In September 2017, Danny Pudi told Entertainment Weekly, quote, "I believe we will do it, and I'm hopeful. I don't know when, but I think we're talking about it. People are actually talking about it." End quote. That November, Harmon spoke about Justin Lin, who went from directing Community's first paintball episode to 4 installments of the Fast and Furious franchise, quote, "I'll get together with him every once in a while, or we'll have dinner, and we're talking. We keep trying to figure out how to do this. Those are the kinds of guys, the Russos plus Justin plus a humble little me. Maybe there is a way to secure the money and the momentum to make something happen." End quote. In March 2018, Joel McHale said, "It would be great to do. I'd do it in a New York minute." Though he also admitted, quote, "Getting Donald Glover would be very hard at this point unless we had $10 million lying around for him to appear. Donald, $10 million good for one day? We kind of need him." End quote. A year later, Alison Brie kept hope alive about the movie while also being realistic, quote, "I'm always down for the idea of that, but I think it would be best if we could get everyone to do it, so I feel like that might be difficult." End quote. And in November 2019, when the cast reunited at Vulture's annual Pop Culture Festival, they agreed that if Dan Harmon wrote the script, they would be there to make it. So in sum, the movie's pretty much in the same place as it was when the show left Yahoo's screen. But hey, check your feed. Maybe something happened since I started talking. Even though the ultimate piece of fan service had yet to see the light of day, or even enter production, in the 5 years after its show's cancellation, the Community fan base stayed as vigilant and active as ever. On social media from June 2015 to March 2020, the community on Reddit added over 100,000 new members. Every day the subreddit brims with life, with handmade art and not-so-crazy theories lightening up the fans' days. In August 2019, the community server on the messaging and voice chat platform Discord was born, and within a year, thousands had made their way over, running meme contests, hosting trivia nights, and doing table reads of their favorite episodes. A half-decade after the show's original run, Community, oddly enough, had never been stronger. Then, it blew up. April 1st, 2020. If it wasn't already clear in 2015, streaming has shown itself to be the way of the future in the world of television. It's one of the main reasons why Community continued to grow even after it left traditional TV. Much like its former blockmate, The Office, a whole new audience found the show online, including those who may have been too young to see it in 2009. But from the beginning, Community had been exclusive to Hulu, which was very much the little brother in the now decade-plus-long streaming wars. As popular as the show had gotten, its reach was limited by its availability. That is, until now. A few weeks ago, Sony Pictures Television made its deal with Hulu non-exclusive, and today, Community heads to the largest streaming service in the world, Netflix. Immediately, the move pays off. On the day of the release, dozens of articles sing the show's praises, including one from Community's old friend Emily Vanderwerf, now at Vox, who leads off her plug for the show by saying, quote, "Few TV shows have changed my life like Community has," end quote. Within a couple of weeks, it becomes Netflix's latest viral phenomenon, experiencing a surge of popularity it never saw on network television. By April 12th, Community hits number 7 on Netflix's daily top 10. By April 18th, Community shoots from 300th to 8th in IMDb's list of most popular movies and TV shows. After gaining 100,000 subscribers in 5 years, the Community subreddit gains its next 100,000 in 2.5 months. For a show that has been through so many twists and turns, this may be the weirdest. 10 years after its debut on NBC, it's more influential than ever. And with a cavalry of new supporters that are just as rabid as those who came before them, maybe there's hope for a movie, after all. It's no accident that one of the most common tropes in all of entertainment is the chosen family. Regardless of who you are or where you come from, there are few stories more heartwarming than a collection of misfits finding a second home with each other based on nothing more than the universal goal of trying to make it through life. And by that standard, it's no accident that Community became what it became. There are chosen families everywhere you look. On screen, underneath the high-flying concept episodes was a powerful emotional core, where 7 underdogs from every kind of background found, through the fire of conflict, a family closer than their own. On the set, the cast and crew suffered through long shooting days and nights, and fought, as families do. But now, years after the final wrap party, they're as close as any cast on television. And around the world, the fans have become a family of their own, having seen their child taken away, brought back, and moved on to the internet. Every day they keep its spirit alive, and have come to love each other as much as the show that brought them together. But if our 6 years at Greendale have taught us nothing else, it's that when we spend enough time and go through enough experiences together, we can drop the chosen label. From virtually anything, including taking a few classes or watching people take a few classes, out can come a real family. And maybe that is the story of Community. Thank you for listening to the story of Community. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. To watch the podcast after show, The Epilogue, featuring myself and other Community podcasters, along with the articles, interviews, and other sources referenced in this episode and a complete transcript, visit bit.ly/thestoryofcommunity. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at storyofcommpod, on Instagram at thestoryofcommunity, and on the Community Podcast Discord at bit.ly/podcastcentral. The Story of Community is written, produced, and edited by me, Alex Wong. Music is composed by Alex Wong and played on MuseScore using the Chateau Grand sound font by John Neubauer. I'd like to give a shout out to the Community Podcast Network for their assistance throughout this project. You can find links to all of the other fantastic community podcasts on the same website, bit.ly/thestoryofcommunity. Also, special thanks to Deborah Wong, Evan Angler, and Chris Revel at Let's Chat Media for their feedback and advice. On the research side, thank you to the Wayback Machine at archive.org and the Reddit search tool at camas.github.io/reddit-search for saving me countless hours of fruitless digging. This podcast is produced using Adobe Audition and distributed through Spreaker. For the final time, thank you for joining me on this journey through the story of community.